This is the Calvert family Scotland trip. We took a flight from DFW to London, LHR to Edinburgh, Scotland. It's a long flight, particularly with the 12-year-old, but we managed. Everyone had a really good flight there. Now that we're all gross after flying. Say hi, Owen.
Hello.
We stopped in Giraffe Restaurant in Heathrow Airport so Crystal could get her mimosa and mushy peas and fish and chips. And very quickly, right off the bat, we miss our creature comforts of air conditioning in America. It was about 80 degrees, no air circulation, fans or nothing. It was surreal to see people still in sweaters while we are from Texas and sweating in this no airflow building. And a quick taxi ride from the airport to our under renovation Hilton Carlton in downtown Edinburgh. So this is our view in Edinburgh. The hotel room. Fortunately, they have the window locked up, but you can see we've got an amazing view of the skyline. 5th floor, looking down into a street. Facing the south. Beautiful. It's gonna be rainy about 3 p.m. today. Nice in 60s. Be beautiful weather. We stopped at this World's End restaurant, and I found it pretty interesting that they called out fine meads, wine, and ales at the top. As a mead brewer myself, I thought that was great. Mr. Owen wanted a picture in front of Cockburn Street. We woke up to a wonderful surprise with a breakfast mimosa bar. It's at this point of the day that we split up so that I can do a whiskey tasting experience and Crystal and Owen go to do their own thing for a bit. One of the most amazing things about this tour was there's a room that a pharmacist had prepared a unique collection of scotches with over 3,400 bottles. It is one of the world's largest collection of unique scotch. And it was amazing just to be in this incredible room with millions of dollars of scotch, just top to floor to ceiling, 4 shelves, wrap around room. Absolutely incredible. Crystal and Owen managed to find Greyfriars Kirkyard Cemetery, which has tombstones from the 1400s. Outstandingly built monuments to people that it's hard to find their stories anymore. Even in reading this, you can see that things are just they've worn down over hundreds and hundreds of years. But just an amazing architecture. We met up later to visit the cemetery together. Of course, Owen found the playground and made some new friends. course, right in front of the playground, they were selling champagne. Owen's big request for this trip was to do Harry Potter things, and one of the things Crystal found was a place where you get to mix your own magic potions.
I think I have a second.
If you have any
What's
questions,
that?
if you have this way, but we're
It says take the conical flask with the broken star crystals and add your beaker of liquid sunlight with one
Yeah,
eye.
that's gonna change color a little bit.
So I think I did.
What's wrong?
I got blue color on my finger.
Oh no.
Yeah, I didn't mean to. I thought I was being careful.
That's so neat.
Oh,
How
look at it.
Yeah. Now, when it's still bubbling, you don't drink it.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
For the thing to stop.
Well, look at how cold it is. The glass is freezing on the edges. It's neat. Our next stop was the Elephant House, where J.K. Rowling wrote most of her first book. They, of course, serve butterscotch beer here, which Owen had to try. Crystal made reservations for us at the Almanac, and it was a wonderful dinner, complete with a massive list of scotch to try. This bar we stopped at was interesting and had soccer hooligans, and then we had our own story out of this. We sat down with a couple of beers, and Crystal's beer exploded. They had poured cold beer into a hot glass fresh out of the dishwasher and shattered and surprised everybody. Made a big mess on her. We were fine, but it was an interesting start to our bar hopping for that evening. One of Crystal's big ambitions here was to see as many Outlander places as she can, and she found Jamie's print shop. Crystal scheduled an Outlander tour where we visit various scenery from the hit series Outlander with Charlotte Gollage, who starred in Season 1, Episode 4 of the Starz series Men in Kilts, showing off Greyfriars Kirkyard.
That's a lot of probes that you're seeing. So,
Coming up is Mid-Hope Castle, one of the Outlander tour destinations. And it was so interesting to see people dressed in old-timey costumes to take photos as if they were in the Outlander show. So this was one of the many Outlander tour stops. One of the things I found really interesting was this used to be a working farm, but the demand for visitors for Outlander became so strong that they kind of threw in the towel and just became a tourist destination for the show. They retained some of the outfits and some of the scenery materials just to keep visitors entertained. Our next stop is Blackness Castle, which was used for some of the fighting scenes and intrigued Owen because it had a real functioning prison at one point in time, as well as looks like a battleship, which you'll see from this next vantage point. Coming up here, you can just see how incredibly tight these stairs are. You can just imagine being at the top of this castle with a cannon ready to defend your home. Coming up here, Charlotte told us to get our cameras ready for the Kelpies, known as Duke and Baron, a monument to the workhorses that made Scotland what it is. So this is Charlotte's home, and she lives on a cottage in the Hopetown estate. She has a princess lifestyle, which you will see here in a moment, because her backyard is something out of a storybook. This is where our tour guide Charlotte lives, and this is the view she gets to wake up to every day.
Come on, Ginger.
You go in the field sometimes?
No, because they've got calves. They wouldn't be happy. Here comes Speckles running up the back. Come on, Penny. Penny.
Penny.
This one here is Penny.
Oh, the big one?
The big one. She's got a little... Come on, this is Ginger. There you go. Just reach it out. Ginger, I'll take it. There you go. Big one's Penny. There you go. Little one's Ginger. And then that's Penny's baby there.
Ginger.
62.
Ginger. Yeah, I felt the tongue. They put a long tongue. What about the baby?
The babies, no, Penny probably wants it more because they're still feeding off their mum a bit.
Oh,
There you
they're
go.
fighting over it.
There you go, there you go. That one's got the horns.
Oh, which one?
There.
Oh, yeah. It looks like a longhorn.
No.
There we go. At the moment, I don't think Penny's and Ginger are going to let anybody else in. There you go, Speckle.
Watch hand, bud.
Yeah.
We'll get that, don't worry. Let me knock that out of the way. Oh, you almost there, Ginger.
After feeding the cows, she tells us she has foxes, rabbits, squirrels, pheasants, other birds, and cats on her property, and they all live together in harmony. Coming up is Hopetown House, which is a common scene filming location for Outlander, and it is owned and used by an earl. It is immaculate, huge, staffed with volunteers willing to tell the story of rooms and articles and all kinds of amazing things within this home. Wow, neat. Those are real books. Look at that. Arabian Nights? No way. It's probably like first printing. Oh my God, they've got Don Quixote. Oh my God. I mean, these books are probably hundreds of thousands of dollars alone.
It's nothing for the $11.
No, but I'm just looking at this thinking, oh my God, we're staring at several $1 million here. This is Voltaire. Oh my God, that's incredible. You don't want to touch anything and be that guy, but I mean, my word, these are...
This is it here. It's 1623.
Oh my
And it
goodness.
was printed for the reason being that people were travelling more, but they needed a dictionary because there can be, even in a language like in English, we have spellings that are the same meaning but different
sure.
spellings for one word. So this was to identify more freely what words meant, and it was one of the first ones, 1623, and the academy still exists in Italy. And if there's new words, they then get added.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's incredible.
1623 dictionary.
So 1540 is the oldest book. We've got a first edition of Charles Dickens, and we definitely know it's a first edition. It's Tale of Two Cities because there was a misprint in the printing of the book, and they printed a page wrongly, numbered it wrongly. So we've got it,
Oh my
and
goodness.
that was the first edition.
That's neat.
Oh,
There
that's
you are.
incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
So that was all covered in white paint.
Oh, wow.
And so they didn't know there was a painted picture up there.
Oh goodness.
And the thing about that was the house was built late 1600s, but there were pictures here, but they
Sadly, I had to remove the audio from this portion of the video because I was being myself and being rather crude, but these bedrooms were amazing. The view from the available balconies here was amazing. We honestly could have spent an entire day here. There are hikes that you can take, guided hikes. There's acres to tour, just an amazing home, ballroom, hunting rooms, just incredible, incredible scenery. It is in this little cafe on site that we fell in love with cherry bakes. Sadly, we did have to leave, with the next destination in our Outlander tour being Fake Inverness or Falkland. The next stop was Doune Castle, which is a location for both Outlander and the Monty Python and the Holy Grail. course, we found this fireplace amazing because our 12-year-old son can stand inside of it. Once our tour was over, we made a visit to Gordon Ramsay's Burger Street for Mr. Owen's dinner. After dinner, Owen wanted to visit the hotel room and play on his iPad while Mom and Dad went to have some scotch. So one of the things the Almanac had was Sam Hume's the Sassenach that Krista wanted to try, which is a blended whiskey. Unfortunately, not her favorite. Our next day was just kind of a chill, relaxed day in Edinburgh. We made it out to the National Museum of Scotland. Scottish people consider themselves inventors. They were the ones to clone Dolly the sheep. They participated in creating vehicles and engines and all kinds of inventions. So this had a lot of really interesting artifacts and things on display. The view from the top of this museum is incredible. You can see the entire city skyline from the top. We went and had lunch at a local diner where Crystal was able to get a bratwurst and I was able to enjoy some German schnitzel. It's amazing just how many scenic views are available in Edinburgh. These steps coming up were all kinds of colors, but carrying suitcases up and down them to get to the train station made it not so great. For our train ride, we had some baked beans and haggis for breakfast with a side of eggs and potatoes. I debated on including this, but I thought it was an interesting story. So we discovered on our last day that there was an air conditioner, but as part of renovations, they had disabled it and covered it with this really wonky plate. And on top of closing the windows off, there's just no air circulation. And I ended up speaking to housekeeping who said they hated working the 5th floor because it's the only floor where they've disabled all the air circulation in the rooms, and the rooms are uncomfortably warm. And I thought that was really interesting and kind of offered a pretty poor experience for the Hilton Carlton. So this day is all about getting from Edinburgh to Oban by train. For about 3 hours, we had non-stop incredible views of hills and water and valleys and just an obscene amount of beauty coming out of this train ride. We actually had 2 train rides. The first one was Edinburgh to Glasgow Queen Street, and that was about a 40-minute train ride, and then a 3-hour train ride from Glasgow Queen Street all the way to Oban. Our train ride took us past another castle known as Kitchern Castle. This is our layover at Queen Street in Glasgow. While Owen and I sat and guarded the luggage, Crystal went and explored and found the train platform where they filmed some of Avengers: Infinity War. One of the things you gotta love about public transport there is the ability to drink on the train. Made it to Oban, and the weather was beautiful, and we couldn't have asked for a better day. Here in Oban is where I picked up my bottles of scotch. This first place here is where I picked up a bottle of Distiller's Edition Oban. And then after my tour here at the Oban Distillery, I went with a bottle of Glen Scotia and a bottle of Bunnahaven. For dinner in Oban, our first night, we had the Waterfront Fish House. And small portions, wonderful tasting menu, everything freshly caught, just delicious. So this is what it looks in Oban at 9:15 p.m. during the summertime. This is 9:15 p.m. That's crazy. This is our first full day in Oban, and this is when I get to have my Oban Distillery tour. We started off with grabbing some hot chocolate for Owen at this local chocolate bar, and we ordered these toasted marshmallows that were entirely too large for the cup and impossible to drink. Most restaurants and stores were very dog friendly. They had dog water bowls outside, and it was really neat to see these well-mannered, well-behaved dogs just out in public. This was the original masher used by Oban for almost 100 years. It's incredible to see. They no longer use it because it's not sized enough for the current demand. So the distillery is landlocked and was going to expand, but upon starting to remove some of these cliffs for expansion, they discovered caves which had bones 4,000 to 7,000 years old from the Bronze Age, and they decided to stop the expansion. Funny thing here, we weren't going to have Owen with us. We actually left him in the shopping area at the Oban Distillery, and they came and brought him to us and said that children are not allowed in the bar area, even if it's a bar area where they're selling knickknacks and t-shirts and other things. So they had some very tight laws, I guess, and we could not leave Owen behind, so he had to enjoy the tour with us. And apparently these copper stills here, which I was really impressed with, have to be replaced every 10 years, and you can see the patchwork of the repairs that they've done to keep them going. One of my asks for Scotland was to see where Skyfall was shot, the valley that the ending of Skyfall was shot, and Crystal found a tour guide by the name of Rab, R-A-B, Black, who also happened to be an extra in Monty Python and the Holy Grail when he was 15. And a couple of fun stories about that. First, he thought it was a terrible movie when he was young, didn't like it at all. And then he also said that he had food from a food truck, which for the first time in his life he found out what real delicious food tasted like and couldn't go home and tell his mom because he didn't want to upset his mom about her cooking. Coming up here is Glencoe, the site of a massive betrayal by Scottish government forces, specifically the Earl of Argyll, who had his men stay with the MacDonalds for 7 days and then turn on them due to a previous affront for the king. At this visitor center, they had built this turf house from locally sourced resources in the same manner that homeowners would have built in Scotland. This is the back view of that turf house, sitting on the back of this visitor center in this amazing scenery. These locations are on part of the tour to get to Glen Etive, where Skyfall was shot. This is Glen Etive. We stopped for lunch at King's House, where we enjoyed incredible views, and a light rain started in the middle of our lunch, and it just added to the ambience of being in Scotland. Crystal conveyed that we hadn't seen the Scottish cows up close, and Rab informed us that he would be more than happy to help us trespass on the MacDougall's farm, as long as we were willing to say that our family heritage was from MacDougall. And we did. So we ended up trespassing in the middle of Glencoe on the McDougall farm so that my wife and son could see these Scottish cows. On our way to St. Conan's Kirk after leaving the farm, Rob pulled over so that we could see these really majestic rapids coming down off of the mountain. So this church puts all us sons to shame, as this was a son's built church for his mother. Rab told us an interesting story about this lion. You can see that the chin is discolored, and that is because the chin of the lion was broken and then some 20 years later was repaired, and it's believed that one of the children that broke it ended up learning stone repair and repairing it later in life. Rab pointed out that the gargoyles on this church are actually rabbits. This is the only picture we have of Rab with the family, and we wish we'd have taken more. The stained glass pictures in this church were incredible, and the lighting was perfect for the day to give just kind of a soft glow, soft hue to some of these works of art. We have dear family friends who their clan is the McNaughton clan. The next day we took a ferry ride, actually multiple ferry rides, to the Isle of Mull, followed by the Isle of Iona. We had to take a bus in the middle of it, but really interesting tour to get to this remote location where you can see puffins. After this 45-minute ferry ride, you hop on this bus for an hour-long trek across the Isle of Mull, and it is incredibly intimidating as it's a single-lane road shared with vehicles, and we're on a double-decker bus. After the second ferry ride, we arrive at Iona, where we discover this Iona Abbey, as well as a MacLeod family home, which is MacLeod is my wife Crystal's family's clan. behind the abbey, they had two things. They had a little cemetery, but they also had a small museum dedicated to artifacts from the original build, including the original cross, which unfortunately couldn't survive the weather. The stonework was incredible everywhere you looked. It's funny to see how I literally would not have been able to get into their doors. And then this is the replacement cross. After visiting the abbey, it was time to head out to the bay to go find some puffins. Unfortunately, our boat ride to see the puffins was a bust. We ended up getting on a boat and the waves were too high and water too choppy. Unfortunately, multiple people ended up getting sick just trying to get out there, and the reality was that he couldn't pull into the island to let us off, and the distance between us and the puffins was too far to see without binoculars, and we didn't bring binoculars. Fortunately, some people shared with us, but we couldn't get good pictures, and we really couldn't get a good view. They didn't want to interrupt the mating season for the puffins, so they wouldn't get very close to them. These are Fingal's Caves, which have some literary poet significance, but I couldn't quite understand the guy, and looking up online there's a bunch of disagreement about essentially the importance of these caves, but they're neat. It was neat to see. Say hi.
There's puffins over there.
Owen is having a great time on this choppy water, but just next to us, just out of frame, are people losing their lunch over the side.
Oh, we're going farther away.
I take a moment and get a full zoom off of my iPhone just to get as much picture as I can, and manage to snag a few good ones. This is Iona Abbey from the water. That was the end of the tour, and now we're on our way back to go back to Mull and then to Oban. Our bus driver pulled over so we could all get some pictures of this very just gorgeous valley. When I talk about intimidating bus drive, this is the kind of thing that is just amazing that it functions, and we didn't see any accidents, because I don't know that you could pull this off in the States. begin our train ride back to Edinburgh before we head home the following day. Crystal is behind me taking some photos because we didn't realize that we would have about 200 steps to climb with our luggage after the train ride, and everyone was tired and exhausted, so I ended up carrying mine and Owen's in one pass, coming back down and collecting her in her bag so that we weren't all too tired. In the evening, Owen wanted to stay at the hotel, and Crystal and I went out to do some exploring, and we found ourselves at St. Giles Cathedral listening to live organ music. Story time about our final night in Scotland. My wife and I wanted to finish with dinner and drinks. We started with a little bit of bar hopping and then went and had French onion soup and bread and butter at a little Paris boutique shop. And then we went and had pizza with Owen at a place where the gold leader from Star Wars created it. Unfortunately, we discovered that none of that sat very well with my wife over the evening. She was sick and did not get a good night's sleep. We managed to get through a very rough taxi ride and get to the airport, get through security, only to find out that our flight from London to DFW was canceled. We had already been through security for our flight from Edinburgh to DFW, and American Airlines had canceled that leg from London to DFW. We ended up working with British Airways to get rescheduled, and we went from 2 flights to 3. We managed to get through security 4 separate times after being misdirected on where we needed to lead, given our cancellation 3 different times. And surprise, I could not believe it, we managed to get home same day with our luggage after 3 flights. We ended up going from Edinburgh to London, London to Denver, Colorado, Denver, Colorado to DFW, getting home about the same time we would have because we had originally had a 4-hour layover. Amazingly enough, we had to run twice down So in London, we had to do a full terminal transfer, and if anybody's been through Heathrow Airport, that is 4 flights of stairs, a train ride, back up 4 flights of stairs, and we had the very last terminal, or the very last gate in that terminal. And then after arriving at Denver, there was a B5 through B99 terminal, and we were B91 and had less than 45 minutes before boarding, and had ran to this final destination only to realize that there was no place to buy water, and obviously through TSA and security you can't carry bottled water. So we're thinking, okay, well, we'll get on the plane and get water, and then we find out that there's a 45-minute delay because they're down to one runway. So everything that could have gone wrong getting home did, but we did manage to get our luggage. We got home, everybody made it, and that was the end of our trip.